Welcome back to the show, Daniel.
It's a pleasure to be here, ma'am.
It's very exciting to have you here.
Well, the excitement is all mine. As I've said to so many women. All right.
It just happens all the time.
Focus on the interview.
Exactly. So your series of Unfortunate Events series was sort of gothic in nature.
Yes.
This series is set in the world of noir. And
Yeah.
you said earlier on in the show that the noir world feels like childhood to you. And you talked about one way that was true. What are some of the other ways that?
The ways are endless. As I was finishing writing a series of Unfortunate Events, I was reading a Raymond Chandler novel, and it just occurred to me that the detective and outsider in the world, given various tasks that turn out to have either way less meaning or way more meaning than the people assigning them, tell him, and he tries to find his own moral path in a corrupt and confusing world full of liars and other deceitful creatures. That's childhood. That's growing up. That's
That's absolutely
the
true.
journey we all take to adulthood, and then we start lying and deceiving children of our own.
That is super touching.
I'm glad you're moved by that. I feel I've learned a lot about you that you find that touching.
In what ways was your own? Do you think that your own childhood was noirish?
I was spying on people all of the time.
Were you?
Yeah.
You were sort of a voyeur as a child.
Well, that would be a polite way of putting it, I guess. I was convinced that there was a secret world underneath the placid surface of what I saw, and I think I was more or less right. And then as I became an adolescent, I was a fan of noir, and I would dream of the glamorous world in which I would get to grow up and wear a suit and say clever remarks that might end in gunfire.
So how did you spy on people?
Women. I was into the women.
Yeah, you were into the chicks?
Well, the chicks in noir novels were so glamorous.
Yes.
You know, they would lead you away from a party to a room, and you would have to sit and talk with them very earnestly about their problems, and then they would turn out to lie to you, and so you would say some witty remark and pour another glass of scotch from the decanter. It was a world I dreamed of accessing one day.
And I'm guessing you were 5 at this point.
No, by that time I think I was 12 or 13, yeah.
Yeah.
I would go to, bar mitzvah parties and imagine that they would become the glamorous world of the big sleep. Mm-hmm. They never did, no.
Well,
it was just the small Haftorah.
Nobody lives in the big sleep.
I know.
Except Raymond Chandler's characters.
Thanks for pointing that out, shattering another dream.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I didn't realize you were still holding on to it.
Oh, absolutely.
That is my fault. That is my bad.
I'll get my revenge. You know the tooth fairy? Total myth, corny. Boom! Now we're even. That was your parents reaching under your pillow and leaving $1 there. That's all it was.
So I shouldn't have been ripping out my teeth last week because I needed to pay my electric bill?
Wow.
Time
for another live wire pledge break, is it? Yeah.
So this book is very funny.
Thank you.
I actually wanted you to read a quick passage just to kind of give people an idea of some of the language of it. And it's
Great.
just
Do you
have
a copy of the book there, Matt?
I do happen
Marked
to have
with a Post-it by any chance?
a copy of the book in my
luck.
hand with a little. So I just marked there and there.
Yeah, I get it. I'm with you.
He understands what I'm saying. I don't know if you want to set it up a little bit. I did a little bit.
Yeah, well, here we are on page 121.
Just the situation.
No, our narrator, otherwise known as Lemony Snicket, is working closely with a woman named Theodora, and they have broken into a house. Well, their plan is to slip into a house and steal an item. One way to keep one's voice down is to stop talking altogether, which is also one way not to argue with somebody. I beckoned to Theodora, and we slipped into the house and made our way up the spiral staircase, Theodora pressing herself against the walls of the lighthouse and swiveling her head this way and that, and me walking like a normal person. I led her into the newsroom, removed the sheet, and pointed to the statue of the abominating beast. She gestured to me that I should be the one to take it. I gestured back that she was the chaperone and the leader of this caper. She gestured to me that I shouldn't argue with her. I gestured to her that I was the one who had gotten us into the house in the first place. She gestured to me that my predecessor knew that the apprentice should never argue with the chaperone or complain, and that I might model my own behavior better after his. I gestured to her, asking what the S stood for in her name, and she replied with a very rude gesture, and I grabbed the statue and tucked it into my vest. It was lighter than I thought it would be, and I felt less like a burglar and more like someone who was simply carrying an object from one place to another.
If you just tuned in, you're listening to Livewire, and we're talking to Daniel Handler about his book, Who Could That Be at This Hour? What I loved about this scene, this felt like an Abbott and Costello movie to me, this scene.
Oh, yeah?
And there's so many things. Well, I mean, there's... It may not be what you, but it felt very sort of cinematic to me. And
I modeled it after a Nabokov novel, but no, Abbott and Costello is... That's fine, too. Every author's dream.
Well, one of the reasons that I thought of this is that I know that you almost watch exclusively really old movies, and it feels like there's so many characters in this. Obviously, you've got the sort of grizzled Lemony Snicket, and then the detective, and then you've got a sort of a His Gal Friday character in here. And I was just wondering, did you write this in part so that this world wouldn't die with this generation?
Oh, is it dying with this generation? I wouldn't know. I wrote it because it's the world. It's the world of noir novels and noir movies that felt like it belonged to the world of Lemony Snicket's childhood. I mean, technically, this new series is kind of a prequel to a series of unfortunate events. Lemony is a young man, and he's not yet the old, haggard figure that he is in a series of unfortunate events. And I like the idea that when he was young, he would be in a Raymond Chandler novel, and he would kind of grow up and become Heathcliff of Wuthering Heights. That charms me.
Heathcliff was a very charming guy.
No, you were one of those girls, were you? Yeah.
No, not at all. Only in real life.
Yeah. Locked in your room listening to Kate Bush. Man, oh man.
Yes. Shut up! I do know that
we boys always had crushes on you girls, but you always wanted the football players. Yeah.
You know what we
I
enjoy
could meet
as
a
women?
smart man, a lonely man. Oh, I'm smart and lonely over here. Oh no, that guy's cuter. He's popular. Yeah.
You know what? Have you tried being more of a butthole? Women love buttholes.
Yeah.
You know, just you know what?
Women love buttholes. Yeah.
You can take that.
Do you
and
mind
leave
if
it.
we use your quote in our promotional materials, ma'am?
Absolutely.
My publisher is going to be so excited about this entire interview. We can't wait to broadcast this on Nickelodeon for your young audience.
Well, speaking of your young audience,
I'm so glad that was the segue. Yeah.
speaking of buttholes,
When you were in college and more experimental, I was wondering. I went to Wesleyan too, you know.
oh no, I get it. Just going back to the young audience.
Sure.
You have mentioned that you read a lot of noir novels,
Yes.
and Raymond Chandler specifically. And there's a couple of Chandler quotes from Farewell, My Lovely. She was a blonde to make a bishop kick a hole in a stained glass window. And from The Big Sleep, it seemed like a nice neighborhood to have bad habits in. How do you go about creating language that sounds like that, but is for kids?
Well, pretty much the only thing that you have to remove is certain chemical use, and you have to turn romantic attachment into the fraught friendship that happens in 4th and 5th grade rather than the twisted sexual complications of what I'm told happens when you get older. But other than that, it's really the same thing.
Yeah.
Being a lonely figure looking out on things is, in many ways, much more the realm of childhood than it is adulthood, I think.
Well, absolutely. There's also, though, there's a definite femme fatale in this book, and obviously in a Raymond Chandler novel, she's going to use her sexuality quite a bit. So what did you kind of replace that with this character?
Well, I mean, I guess technically it's the same sexuality, Bruno Bettelheim would say, but
sure, Bruno.
We're always bringing him up on Livewire. But Ellington Faint is the name of the femme fatale, and I think she's the kind of alluring 12-year-old girl that is perhaps technically pre-sexual allure, particularly if you're a 42-year-old man talking about her. But is mysterious and dark and deceitful in the ways that plenty of 12-year-old girls can be.
Oh, absolutely.
If not all 12-year-old girls.
In some ways, it seems like 12-year-old girls are better at it than grown women.
Certainly they were better at doing it to me when I was in 7th grade. I'm looking at you, Nancy Cutler. Yeah. Don't say her name. Don't say her name out loud. It's bad.
We're just calling her out on.
She's fine. She married a doctor.
We've got her on the line right now, Nancy.
Yeah. I always loved you. It's the last that's come true.
How do you like him now? Yeah.
How do you like him now? Yeah, that's right. 2 Nickelodeon Kids' Choice Awards, baby.
You started writing children's books before you had a child yourself. Your son, Otto, is 8 years old.
Just turned 9.
Oh, just turned 9.
Yeah, I'm sorry. We didn't invite you to the birthday party. Thought it would be awkward.
So what has being Otto's father taught you about writing for kids?
Oh, what has it taught me? Well, when he was a baby, I was finishing a series of unfortunate events, and I thought it was a tremendous boon, because when you have a baby, it's little more than brainstorming what could go wrong with a child. You know, you have a small baby who's really, when he's tiny, it's like a Ziploc bag of blood. You don't even, you're scared to put him down anywhere, and you suddenly learn, you know, to walk into a room and look at the corners of coffee tables and things that you never looked at before, and that really helped me go home and then brainstorm of terrible things to happen to orphans. So I think that helped a lot.
That is not the way that I thought that was going to go.
Yeah. Well, you know, I didn't think buttholes would come up, so I think we're kind of even there, Courtney. Oh, dear.
Well, gosh.
Yeah. My, how the time flies.
It has flown. That was Daniel Handler. His new book is Who Could That Be at this hour.